All right, before we close the book on that epic Game 7 performance from Steph Curry and turn the page to what promises to be an epic reunion between Steph's Warriors and LeBron James's Lakers in the playoffs, who better to talk to than the Athletics' Marcus Thompson, who's literally written a book on Steph Curry and the Warriors, written a book on the dynasties that shaped NBA history, and just recently co-authored with Shams a great behind-the-scenes look at Steph's rallying cry, his speech to his teammates prior to that Game 7 explosion. So, Marcus, man, first things first, great piece as usual. Is there a story behind the story?
Yeah, there always is, right? That's what we do. First off, it's a pleasure to be on my main man, Michael Smith. You feel me? That's what I'm talking about. But so there's just been a lot of mess on this team, a lot of mess. And I didn't go to Game 6. My daughter was in her first theatrical performance in high school.
Nice.
So I told Steph in Game 5, I was like, look, bruh, I need you to win Game 5 because I can't be at Game 6. But if they lost Game 5 and Game 6 would have been the end of like the dynasty era, I was like, yo, then I kind of gotta be at that, and I can't go to the play. So I was like, if y'all win Game 5, then it don't matter what happened Game 6 because there'll be a Game 7. So
don't put me in this position,
like,
Steph.
Yeah, don't make me choose, right? So they won Game 5, and I'm like, right on. So then I missed Game 6, and I'm watching. Then I watch it like the replay, and I'm like, they were awful. They were done. You saw all this, like just discombobulation. They didn't play well. They looked like a mess on the bench. You got dudes shoving guys. It was just a mess. So when I see Steph Game 7, like before everybody, they look so calm, right? It's like I expected to be walking into chaos. You know me, man. I'm a reporter, so I'm like, oh, it's going down. This is the end. Like, let's get
it's
the
falling
juice.
apart.
Let's get the juice. So I know a lot of people don't understand it, but the Warriors used to be more like this before the chaos. See, my days cutting my teeth as a writer was on the Warriors when they were terrible. You feel me? So
So you know what it looks like.
This is in my lane. Like, oh, this is going down. We about to get some trade demands. We probably, people about to start sniping on dropping names on
air
this
dirty
records.
laundry.
It was going down. So I get to Game 7, like, yo, they calm. They are chilling, right? And I'm like, yo, what is happening? And I keep hearing about the speech, Steph's speech. Hey, yo, Steph's speech, right? Like, and I got a little wind of it on the day before. Like, oh man, we go, people talking about what's gonna happen. Oh, we gonna be good, man. You should have heard what Steph said to the team. Like, oh, okay, all right, let me do some digging. So, before the game was a little weird. Then he drops 50, and then people are like, I told you. So I go up to Steph and I'm like, hey man, I heard this speech was epic. And he looks me in the face and he just starts like gets all real serious and was like, it is now. And then busts out into laughing.
Exactly.
And then like busts into laughter. I'm like, yeah. If you go 4 for 16 and y'all lose, it probably ain't that big of a speech. But
and I want you to keep going, but just to interject, I said this yesterday. Nobody ever talks about the halftime speeches or the pregame speeches or the night before the game speeches when they lose. Like, you mean to tell me like somebody had to have said something good even though y'all got blown out,
Right? Maybe the greatest speeches of all time preceded L's, right? Like, we don't even know because nobody will never know. Like, yo, man, I challenged my Barack Obama, but we still lost by 20. Like, it doesn't matter. So Steph was like, yeah, I mean, it is now because we actually went out there and won, but it was a trip to hear. One of the unique things about it, Michael, is like these dudes are often really jaded, not from the sense of like the sport, but it's hard for words to move them. I mean, they make a lot of money, and think about it, especially this team, full of like 30-year-olds. They've heard every speech in the book So all they have is people talking to them, right? And then you got this modern generation of player who grew up on social media. All they have is coaches talking to them, right? Real coaches, AAU coaches, and then the coaches on social media who know everything, right? So the
Yeah.
idea that somebody can say something to move them, that to me was like, wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just don't. I mean, Draymond is your teammate. You get a speech every day, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so
Steve
it's
Kerr's
like,
not bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
Steve
Yeah.
Kerr, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, wow. So to see like these pros who had already won a championship, who already been through the ringer, like, oh, nah, 30 said something. We good. That was to me the part that was like real, like, yo. So then at that point, it's like, yo, so what did he say? I need all the details, man. Give me the tea. And I know you'll appreciate this, man. We spent a couple years out of the locker room because of the pandemic. And man, it was just so fun again to like have a story that don't nobody have, and you got to get the details without telling nobody. You remember the days, like you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah,
dude, you're giving me chills. You're giving me
it was
chills.
like, yeah.
But I want to get to what it says about Steph, but first what it says about you. Not only a couple of things jumped out from that story just now. One, your ability to see what was happening, even though you weren't there. Much like Draymond when he was suspended. It was like you've been around this team so much, so you were able to notice things from afar that a lot of people probably didn't pick up on that were already there for Game 6. Secondly, how were you able to find out about this speech? You say you heard about it the day before, and even leading up to the game, and nobody else had it, which again says a lot about your connections with this organization. So you must have been mad nervous sitting on this story and gathering information, hoping that nobody else knew.
Well, I was, and then I got a text message from my guy, Shams Charania, and he was like, yo, man, apparently Steph gave this epic speech. And I was like, oh, you heard it too? Then I was like, oh, it's on, right? Because, Shams be knowing everybody.
It's your teammate.
Like, yeah, exactly. So my teammate had something, and he's telling me, and I'm like, so he had some of the details already. And at that point, once me and him started working it, at that point it was easy. Then it just became about
that's Shaq and Kobe right there.
Yeah, right. It was like, hey, make sure don't nobody hear. The funny inside baseball story was like, so I'm going around trying to get people by myself, and I talked to Draymond, and Draymond was central to the story because he kind of was the start of it. It's like him, Steph, Clay were talking, and that's how it kind of got sparked, where Steph is like, yo, give me the mic. But I'm talking to Draymond, and he's giving me his 2 cents, and he's like basically reliving it and getting all hyped, right? Like he's like Al Pacino in Any Given Sunday, right? He's like, we fight for that inch on this team. So exactly, the 6 inches in front of your face. So I'm talking to Draymond, and once you get Draymond, it's like, all right, that's it, you got it. And then I get a call from Shams, and he's like, oh man, somebody, because Shams is not there, by the way, just for the record, he's not in Sacramento. So he's like, call me, oh man, Draymond was just talking about the speech about somebody. Like we're in the hall, I just talked to him. He's like, oh, Draymond's talking to somebody about it. You think somebody else know? I was like, no, he was talking to me. But how you know?
Damn, he got spies, man.
That's how good Shams is. Like, wait, how you? I just had this conversation. Like, what? Like,
that's dope. Yeah, that's dope.
That's crazy. That dude is next level, man.
Both of y'all are next level. So, speaking of Steph and this next level, so, all right, I'll give you my spiel, and then obviously, you're the expert on him and his body of work. I controlled myself and refrained from coming to and making any grand declarations, proclamations about Steph and where he ranks in his greatness and him versus somebody else, even though it's him versus LeBron this next series, because I kind of felt like I was in a museum. And not a lot of talking happens in a museum. It's like you're just there to admire. You're there to appreciate. You're there to take it all in. And I just wanted to take in the first 50-point game in Game 7 in NBA history. A career high from Steph Curry, a playoff career high from Steph Curry at age 35. I just didn't want to ruin it by talking and by getting into, legacy talk. Having said that, though, what is fascinating about Steph is it possible, and I guess here's the question in a roundabout way, is it possible that, because usually about 35, it kind of is what it is and you are what you are. Is it possible that Steph, given what he did last postseason, what he just did, and what he still might do, is in the process, and I'm talking to his biographer, in the process of maybe rewriting his reputation, if that makes sense?
Yo, life is crazy, yo. Like, just how this stuff works. It just, the answer is yes. It's wild that A, he needs to, and B, that he sees a need to, right? There was a moment.
That's the key.
Was it like I think it might have been last year or the year before? No, it was after he came back 2021, and remember he was like crazy, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, Steph ain't done," because he hadn't played in a long time. He got hurt the year before. They were 15 and 55. And he was incredible. He averaged like 32 points, dragged like this team to the play-in. Like
MVP talk. Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, man. At that point, everybody was like unanimously like, yo, this dude is the truth. Because in this world universe that flipped on us, somehow it became less about winning and more about like what you could do with the least, right? Which is
right, doing more or less, yes. Yes.
Like that, imagine if we determined chefs like that. Like, yo, man, I don't care how you make Wagyu, right? Like, go in the fridge, throw some lunch meat in there. If you could make something better out of leftovers, you a real chef. Like, that don't really make sense.
I think there's a TV show.
There literally is, and it's trash. Like, we're not buying that stuff. I'm not spending $75 on what you can make out of nothing. But so he kind of did that, and people were like, "Oh, okay, you are the truth." So I remember talking to him like, "Yo, like, is this weird now?" Where people are just kind of like saying, "Yeah, you're the one." He's like, "What, man? Let one thing happen, they'll be right back on my neck." Like in his mind, he's like, "Nah, like it's prisoner of the moment. Like people will still find a reason to be critical of me." So to me, it's unique for somebody to have accomplished everything he's accomplished and to still feel like you need something to prove, which is, from my upbringing, exactly how you always heard the greats are. And that's the jarring thing to me about this. Like, I grew up watching like MJ, Jerry Rice, you know what I'm saying? Like these tremendous figures, like, Ricky Henderson went to my high school, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody is Ricky Henderson cousin in Oakland, right? like you hear about these people and you're drawn to them in sports. So the part that's jarring to me is like, and I have to remind myself, I literally, Michael, have to say, yo, this is one of them dudes. Like, I'm covering one of these dudes, right? One of these dudes who, like, in 30 years will be telling stories about how, why is he so mad with 2 MVPs? Like, why is he out to prove the world wrong with 4 championships, right? Like, but that's why he's different. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why he's unique, because he's sitting at home with he was with 3 championships, 2 MVPs, like plotting how I'm about to come back and show y'all something. You know what I'm saying? Like, he averages 32 at like 33 years old and is on the mic talking about, y'all want to see us next year. Like, the dude is a maniac in the same way that all of our superstars are maniac, Kobe, right? Like,
Jordan,
that's why
all that stuff.
Absolutely. He's a psycho. And he's like, I feel like, there was a part where Kobe felt like he was so closed off. And then if something happened, he's like, yo, I'm just going to talk my piece. I'm just going to say what I feel. Like, I don't care. I'm just going to do me. And I feel like Steph is at that level. And also, like, like how Mike changed his game. It went from like high flying to turnarounds and fadeaways. And I'm just going to kill you with these deuces. Like, I feel like Steph is hit that spot too. It's like, okay, y'all gonna take away my three. Let me start taking advantage of this other stuff. And he's figuring out another way to dominate. So now when you put it all together, his 3-point shooting and now his mid-range and his ability to get to the basket, and he's so much stronger now. It's all because he's
gotten better.
He's literally getting better, and he's 35. He's got like 3 kids. He got a family. He cares less about what he's saying. He's already filthy rich. So now he's talking his talk.
Yeah.
So it does feel like a new like kind of creation. I'm just looking at this dude like, yo, he turned to them dudes and said, like the beam at the end of the game. This is not the Steph Curry from 2012, right? Like he talking his talk.
Right. This is you talking about y'all ain't ready for this. I mean,
y'all ain't
ready for this. I said I feel like I guess one of the best compliments I could give him, and I felt this way at a certain point about LeBron, the LeBron versus Jordan never-ending debate, is like Steph's just one of one, and I think he's ended the debate, not won a debate over best point guard or is he top 5 or top 10. I think he's ended it, as in he's transcended it. It's like there is no. It's almost pointless. There's no wrong answer. Like if you want to say he's the greatest, whatever. I mean, he's already obviously the GOAT shooter. But if you want to say he's the greatest point guard or a top 5 player or a Mount Rushmore, whatever you want to say, like there's no denying it anymore, and therefore there is no debate. There's no counter argument to Steph anymore. Just like there's no counter to what he brings to the table. There's really no counter argument to anything you want to say about him at this point. Don't let him beat LeBron en route to a 5th championship. That chorus is going to get even louder. But let me ask you this, because I know, speaking of your daughter, you got to bring her to school pretty soon. I appreciate you waking up early with me. Had it gone the other way, just to bring this conversation full circle, had they gone the other way, and it did end in 6, and unfortunately you had to choose or you missed it. You probably would have missed it because that's the kind of dad you are. Had the dynasty ended, had the season ended, would the dynasty have ended with it? And the other half of that question is, regardless of what happens from here on out, Bob Myers is a free agent. Draymond Green is, of course, a free agent. Like, there's no way they're going to split this up now, is there? Or is it still to be determined based on how the season plays out? Because even Steve Kerr said earlier this year, this isn't the last dance. But I ask you, is it kind of, sort of?
Man, we in that same space you in. Like, is it? If they'd have lost, I think it'd have been done. I think that would have been it. Not because that they lost, but the way they went out. Like a mess. You know what I'm saying? Like, this ain't working. It's not like, if Sacramento had beat them and the Warriors just looked like, hey, we finally found a team that had our number, it's cool. But they went out like they went out like some suckers in Game 6. If that's how the dynasty would have ended, where you can't get, like, it's just, there's just been too much, and the price for this is historic. Like, that's the part that is good. Like the price, Draymond, he has a opt out, but if he picks it up, and then you got Clay making 43 and Steph making 50, I mean, we're getting into. We're past Neiman and Marcus now. We're into them stores that ain't got no name on it. Like, it's that price.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
with security at the door, they only let a certain number of people in at a time.
Absolutely.
You got to wait outside. And we're going to text you when it's time to get in.
where poor folks like us walk by and be like, hey, I wonder what they sell in there. Like, you don't even get to know, buddy. Like, we at that level. So I do think, like, my guy, Ethan Strauss, he wrote about this. Like, the reason it was great, because like the alternative was epic disaster, right? Like, they were playing for a dynasty. Like, that's why this 50 was crazy. 50 in the Game 7 is crazy, but it was literally to save a dynasty, right? Like, and
not just a season, a dynasty. And coming
like,
off of that Game 6,
coming off of that crazy. Game 6, there was so much. There's so much hanging in the balance. Like, we still don't know, right? Bob Myers could leave, and I think if Bob Myers leaves, that would be a major, major cultural change to where 30-something-year-olds look and be like, do I want to do this, right? Like, they're fighting to keep what they've built together, and the economy of the NBA is fighting to break it apart, and the owner is sitting at the top trying to decide, do I just pay the price to keep together this like once in a generation thing, or do I let the economy win out? Like that's literally what's happened, and they're trying to say we are worth the money. Like we are them dudes. You pay for us, right? And so if they flame out, the answer is, all right, you were them dudes. But this is the highest the price has ever been for them. It wasn't this high when it was KD. So now it's like Jordan Poole and them. So now the owner is like, yo, do I want to spend this much? So to me, that's what made the Game 7 so big. Like you just don't know what's gonna happen. And you've been around the stuff, Mike. You know when it ends, it's a soap opera, right? All kind of stuff is happening. And so to me, that's what they staved off, right? And maybe now it's pretty evident. Like Tim Kawakami wrote, like, you can't break this up, dude, because even if you don't win a championship, these dudes giving you moments. They giving you history. Like it's live. Right. Like you said, it's a museum with jerseys on. Like every time you might see something incredible. You just don't know. And how do you not pay for that?
You constantly giving bars, giving gems. Marcus, we appreciate you, man. Thanks for giving us the time. Go bring your daughter to school. Stakes is high. I'm sure we'll be talking to you again real soon. Maybe like next week or something, given that they're only about to face LeBron and the Lakers. Marcus Thompson from The Athletic,
you ready for
Love
this?
You, man. Appreciate you. Oh, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know.
Is this going to be like a Rocky movie, or is this like the
Creed.
LeBron Steph 5 Rocky movie, or Incredible?
Yeah, this is going to be Creed. You know, this is Rocky Drago. You know, Creed and young Drago.
I just hope it ain't 38-year-olds like, maybe y'all should have stopped at 3. Deuces, homie. Appreciate you.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. Hey, thanks so much for kicking it with your main man, Michael Smith. Be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, but also subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Rate it, review it, tell your friends about it. Oh, and be sure to follow me on social media.